So today we heard from GM. This is exactly what we are seeing, what we're projecting, and specifically they announced a $1.1 billion hit to profit in the second quarter.
Everything built with steel, you've seen the cost go up 30% in the U.S.
The clock is ticking towards what is now described as a soft August 1st deadline for a trade deal between Canada and the United States. And now President Donald Trump says a final deal may not happen at all.
We haven't really had a lot of luck with Canada. I think Canada could be one where they'll just pay tariff, not really a negotiation.
We are looking for the best deal for Canada. We are only going to accept the best deal for Canada.
Trump slammed his fist on the table and demanded steel. Hours later, Canada shut the door, and Detroit never recovered. This video unpacks how Trump's steel ultimatum triggered a quiet economic collapse in America's manufacturing capital. We'll show you how Carney's response blindsided Washington and why Detroit was the first to fall. Question for you: when your biggest trade partner walks away in silence, is that still a trade war? Or something worse? Drop your thoughts below. We read every comment. Trump's call for steel dominance echoed across Capitol Hill like a war cry. But what started as a demand quickly unraveled into economic chaos. Within 72 hours of Trump invoking emergency powers to ramp up domestic steel production and restrict imports, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney issued a quiet, surgical response. A full stop on steel exports to the U.S. No announcement, no press conference. Just silence. By the time anyone noticed, Detroit's steel orders were vanishing. Auto plants in Dearborn and Flint ran short within days. Assembly lines idled. And by the time D.C. reacted, the door was already slammed shut. Punchline: Trump demanded steel. Carney handed him an empty warehouse. No city felt the blow like Detroit. Within a week, over a dozen manufacturing plants reported partial shutdowns. GM halted SUV production in Hamtramck. Ford furloughed 1,100 workers. And it wasn't just steel. Aluminum deliveries from Quebec disappeared too. What made the collapse so shocking wasn't just the scale, it was the speed. Customs logs showed nearly 90% of inbound Canadian metals evaporated in a single reporting cycle. Supply chain managers scrambled to reroute from Mexico and Brazil, only to face delays and triple the prices. Mark Carney didn't hold a press conference. He didn't post a tweet. Instead, he used Canada's biggest weapon: silence. Behind closed doors, Ottawa instructed customs and trade agencies to freeze all steel and aluminum shipments heading south. Not indefinitely, just long enough to send a message. The move was quiet, surgical, no tariffs, no headlines, just pure economic pressure. And it worked. While Trump ranted on national TV about ungrateful allies and steel theft, Carney's team let the U.S. economy speak for itself. Canadian mills redirected shipments to Europe and Asia overnight, locking in deals that would have gone to Detroit. Punchline: while Trump barked, Carney blocked, and never said a word. If you want to understand the full fallout of this steel standoff and what it means for American jobs and industry, hit that like button and subscribe. This story isn't over, and neither is the fight for Detroit's future. Washington underestimated Canada. Again, Trump's inner circle assumed Ottawa would cave, just like they did in the softwood lumber dispute. But this time, Carney's move wasn't about negotiation. It was about dignity. Sources inside Canada's trade ministry said the steel retaliation wasn't even about economics. It was about not being humiliated on the global stage. Trump's televised demand for steel loyalty from allies was seen in Ottawa as an insult, not a policy. And while D.C. expected backroom talks, Canada gave them a cold shoulder and a closed border. Punchline: Trump thought Canada was bluffing. Turns out, they folded the table. Detroit was only the beginning. From Toledo to Pittsburgh, the shutdown spread like a contagion. AK Steel paused operations in Ohio. Tool and die shops in Indiana reported back orders stretching 6 months. Even Boeing in Seattle flagged potential frame delays due to vanishing aluminum stocks. But here's the kicker: U.S. trade officials still hadn't officially acknowledged Canada's move. With no formal tariff to fight, there was no playbook. And that ambiguity paralyzed the response. Industry leaders were left calling Canadian suppliers directly. only to get vague answers or straight-up silence. Punchline: the US wasn't hit with a tariff, it was hit with a dial tone. While America scrambled, Canada cashed in. Steel contracts with Germany, South Korea, and Brazil were signed within 10 days of the US freeze. Quebec's aluminum went to Japan, at better prices. And Canadian steelmakers, free from US red tape, started touting their reliability to Asian markets burned by Trump's past tariffs. Carney wasn't just punishing the US, he was replacing it. The world saw a reliable G7 supplier escape the grip of an unpredictable partner and rushed in. Punchline: while Trump closed one door, Carney opened 5 more. Capitol Hill exploded. Senators from Michigan and Ohio demanded action, accusing Canada of economic sabotage. Congressional hearings turned into shouting matches. But here's the problem. With no formal tariffs or bans, the US had little legal ground. Trade lawyers called it a gray area, a diplomatic dodge by Ottawa that left Washington furious but powerless. Behind closed doors, bipartisan frustration boiled over as lawmakers scrambled for solutions that simply didn't exist yet. The political theater was loud, but the real damage was silent. Punchline: Congress screamed, but Canada stayed silent and unshaken. Trump's 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports were meant to force Canada's hand. Instead, they triggered a self-made trap. By alienating its closest ally, the US cut off its own steel lifeline. Inside the White House, aides admitted the tariff backfired spectacularly. Industry insiders say Trump failed to anticipate Canada's strategic patience and market diversification. The tariffs didn't bring steel jobs back. They stranded American manufacturers, drove costs up, and accelerated job losses in the auto sector. Punchline: Trump built a wall, and Canada just walked around it. What started as a tariff showdown has quietly reshaped North America's industrial landscape. Canada's silent steel shutdown wasn't just retaliation, it was a strategic pivot towards self-reliance and clean energy. Detroit's factories may be dark today, but this isn't just a story about loss. It's a warning. In trade wars, the loudest noise isn't always the most powerful. Sometimes, it's the quiet moves behind the scenes that decide who wins and who gets left behind.